Black, the sound of a heartbeat, steady, then faster. Heavy breathing, footsteps in dirt, the creak of wood under weight. Fade in. July heat in Kansas, 1873, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer and bend, the kind that turns the horizon into a lie. A woman stood on the platform of a stagecoach depot, alone. Her name was Lita Vereen, though that was not the name she was born with. 32 years old, auburn hair pulled back tight, gray eyes that had learned not to trust what they saw, 5 feet 7 inches of calculation wrapped in a black dress, not a wedding dress, a funeral dress. She held a small valise in her right hand, brown leather scratched and worn. Her knuckles were bruised, fresh bruises purple and yellow. On her left wrist, just visible beneath her sleeve, a small circular scar, a burn mark, old but permanent. The depot was nearly empty. One bench, one water trough. One sign that read Dry Creek in faded paint. Dust devils spun in the street beyond. A storm was coming from the west, dark clouds building like a wall. The depot master emerged from the small office. Older man, suspenders, tobacco-stained beard. He squinted at Lita with the particular suspicion reserved for strangers in small towns. "You the male bride for Thaddeus Carver?" Lita paused. The pause was too long. Anyone paying attention would have noticed. "Yes." The depot master tilted his head. His eyes traveled from her face to her valise and back again. "Funny. You don't look nothing like the photo he showed around." Lita met his gaze. Steady, unflinching. People rarely do. The depot master grunted, seemed satisfied enough. He turned to go back inside, then stopped. "Your ride's here." A man approached from the far end of the platform, not walking, limping, left leg dragging slightly with each step. He was tall, rough. A scar cut through his left eyebrow like a streak of lightning frozen in skin. Dark brown hair going gray at the temples, though he could not have been past 40. Hazel eyes that looked at everything and revealed nothing. He wore work clothes, dirty. He looked like he had crawled out of a mine and forgotten to wash. "Mrs. Vereen." His voice was low, damaged in some way, like something had crushed it years ago and it had healed wrong. "I'm here to collect you." Lita's hand tightened on her valise. Her other hand moved toward her pocket, slowly, carefully. "You're not Thaddeus Carver." "No." The man's face remained neutral. No smile, no reassurance. Just fact. "I work for him. He's indisposed." Lita did not move. "Indisposed how?" The man did not answer. Instead, he turned and began walking toward a wagon at the edge of the depot yard. After 3 steps, he stopped, looked back over his shoulder. "Wagon's this way," Lita followed. What choice did she have? As they walked across the hard-packed dirt, she saw it. Nailed to the wall of the depot office. A wanted poster. The paper was new. White? Not yet yellowed by sun. Wanted. Letitia Brennan. Murder. $500 reward. Boston, Massachusetts. The sketch was rough. A woman's face. The details were blurred by poor printing, but the resemblance was there. Anyone looking closely would see it. Lita's breath stopped in her throat. The man saw her looking. His eyes flicked to the poster, then to her face, then back to the poster. For a moment that stretched like taffy, neither of them spoke. Then the man continued walking. "You coming or not?" Lita forced her legs to move. They reached the wagon. 2 horses, old but sturdy. The wagon bed was empty except for a coil of rope and a shovel. Lita climbed up onto the bench seat. The man climbed up beside her. He took the reins. They pulled out of Dry Creek without another word. The ride was 12 miles. 12 miles of nothing but wheat fields and sky. The storm clouds were closer now. Thunder rumbled in the distance like a giant clearing its throat. Lita sat rigid on the bench. Her valise was on her lap, both hands gripping the handle. Inside the valise was a small Derringer pistol. 2 shots. She had never fired it. She had bought it in St. Louis with money stolen from a dead man's pocket. The man beside her said nothing. His eyes stayed on the road ahead. But Lita knew he was aware of every movement she made, the way a predator is aware of wounded prey. She studied him from the corner of her eye, the scar through his eyebrow, the rope burn around his neck faint but visible, the way his left hand rested near his belt, near where a gun would be. Her own hand drifted toward the clasp of her valise. His hand moved toward his belt. Neither of them made the final move. A Mexican standoff played out in silence. The thunder grew louder. After an hour, the wheat fields gave way to open prairie. And there, rising from the flatness like a tombstone, was the Carver estate. It was larger than Lita had expected. 2 stories, maybe 3. White paint that had been white once but was now the color of old teeth. Black shutters, a wraparound porch that sagged on one side, but it was the windows that made her skin crawl. Every single window on the first floor was covered, black cloth, nailed over the glass from the inside. The garden was overgrown, dead roses tangled with weeds. The barn doors were shut tight. No workers, no animals visible, no sound except the wind pushing through dry grass. The man stopped the wagon in front of the porch steps. "Welcome to Carver Estate." Lita looked at the covered windows, at the dying garden, at the stillness. "Where is everyone inside?" He climbed down, offered her his hand. She ignored it and climbed down herself. They walked to the front door. The man opened it without knocking. It was his home too, then, or his prison. Inside was dark. The covered windows let in almost no light. A single oil lamp burned on a table in the entrance hall. The air smelled like medicine, and something else underneath. Rot. Slow decay. "Wait here." The man disappeared through a doorway to the left. Lita stood in the entrance hall, her eyes adjusted to the gloom, wallpaper peeling, floorboards that creaked under the slightest weight, a staircase leading up into deeper darkness. And then she heard it. A voice, weak, rasping. "Bring her in, Owen." Owen. So that was the man's name. Owen returned to the doorway, gestured for her to follow. She entered what must have been a sitting room. More covered windows, more darkness, more oil lamps struggling against the shadows. And there, in the center of the room, was a wheelchair. In the wheelchair sat a man, Thaddeus Carver. He was thin, gaunt, skin pulled tight over sharp bones, graying blonde hair combed back from a high forehead, blue eyes that were cold and bright like chips of winter sky, hands that trembled slightly as they rested on the arms of the chair. He wore a suit, expensive fabric gone shabby from too much wear, a tie knotted at his throat, shoes polished to a shine despite the fact that his feet could not walk. He looked like a corpse dressed for a funeral that had not happened yet. Thaddeus stared at her for a long moment. His eyes traveled from her face down to her feet and back up again. Cataloging, assessing. "You're older than your photograph." Lita stared back, did not flinch. "You're more paralyzed than your letters suggested." For a moment the room was silent. Then Thaddeus laughed, a dry sound like paper tearing. "Touché." He gestured to a chair across from him. She sat. Owen remained standing by the door, a guard, or a witness. Thaddeus produced a folded paper from inside his jacket, unfolded it with shaking hands, slid it across the small table between them. "Marriage contract. You sign, you get room board and $50 per month. In exchange, you run this household care for me and produce an heir." Lita looked down at the contract. The words swam in the lamplight. "You're paralyzed." Thaddeus smiled. It was not a kind smile. Not in all respects. Lita's stomach turned. She thought of the wanted poster. She thought of the 12 miles back to town. She thought of the $500 reward. She thought of the man in Boston, Senator Aldous Brennan, his hand around her throat, her hatpin in his eye, his body in the Charles River. She thought of the choices that were not really choices at all. She picked up the pen. She signed. Thaddeus took the contract back, folded it, placed it inside his jacket like a man putting away a treasure. "Owen will show you to your room." That was all. No welcome, no pleasantries. She was dismissed. Owen led her upstairs. The staircase creaked with every step. At the top was a hallway, doors on either side, all closed. Owen stopped at the third door on the right, opened it. Your room. It was small. A narrow bed, a dresser, a wash basin, a window with the curtains drawn but not nailed shut like downstairs. Dust covered everything like a shroud. Lita stepped inside, set her valise on the bed. Owen lingered in the doorway. "Dinner is at 6. I'll bring a tray to your room tonight. Tomorrow you eat with him." He turned to leave. "Owen," he stopped. Did not turn around. "How long have you worked here? 8 years? 8 years in this dark house with a man in a wheelchair who could not walk and could not be escaped." Why? Now he did turn. Those hazel eyes met hers, and for just a moment she saw something in them, something like recognition, like he knew exactly what she was running from because he was running too. "Because I owe him my life." He left. The door closed behind him. Lita stood alone in the small room. She went to the window, drew back the curtain. Outside, the storm had arrived. Rain hammered against the glass. Lightning split the sky. She was trapped. That night she could not sleep. The house made noises. Old houses always did. But these noises were different. Footsteps, creaking floorboards. The sound of something heavy being dragged. And all of it came from above. Lita lay in her narrow bed and stared at the ceiling. There was a third floor. She had seen it from outside, but Owen had not shown her the stairs. At 3 in the morning she could not stand it any more. She got up, dressed, took the small oil lamp from her dresser. The hallway was dark. All the other doors were closed. She walked softly. The floorboards still creaked. At the end of the hall she found them. The stairs to the third floor, narrow, steep, and at the top a door, locked. A heavy padlock hung from the latch. New metal. Someone had installed it recently. Lita reached for the padlock, tested it, locked tight. And then she heard it, footsteps. On the other side of the door, someone was up there. Her breath caught. She stepped back. The floorboard beneath her foot groaned. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then from behind the door a voice, barely a whisper. "Help me." Lita's heart slammed against her ribs. She opened her mouth to answer, and then a hand grabbed her shoulder from behind. She spun. Owen stood behind her. He was barefoot, shirtless. The lamplight caught the scars on his chest. Old scars, new scars. A map of violence written on skin. His face was unreadable. "Go back to your room." "Who's up there?" "No one. I heard footsteps. I heard someone speak. Old houses settle. You'll get used to it." He was lying. She knew it. He knew she knew it. "Owen." His hand was still on her shoulder, gentle but firm. "Go. Back. To your room." She went. But she did not sleep. The next morning Owen brought breakfast to her room. Bread, eggs, coffee. He set the tray on the dresser and turned to leave. "Who's on the third floor?" He stopped in the doorway, sighed, turned back. "I am. Why is it locked from the outside to keep people out?" Lita stood, crossed her arms, or to keep people in. Owen's jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he might tell her the truth, whatever the truth was. Instead he said, "It's my room. I live up there. That's all you need to know. And if I don't believe you, then don't. But stay out of places you're not invited." He left. Lita ate her breakfast in silence. Then she began to search the room. It did not take long. The room was small, few places to hide anything. But under the third floorboard from the window she found it, a loose board. Beneath it, a space. And in that space, a book. Diary, property of Clara Voss. May 1872. Lita's hands trembled as she opened it. The first entry was cheerful, hopeful. "Arrived today at Carver Estate. It is larger than I imagined. Mr. Carver seems kind, if somewhat reserved. I believe we will be very happy together." The entries continued, day by day, week by week. At first everything was normal, mundane details, the weather, meals, small adjustments to life in a new place. Then slowly the tone changed. June 5th. Mr. Carver does not like it when I go to town. He says it is not proper for a woman to travel alone. Owen accompanies me now. I feel watched. June 20th. I asked about the third floor. Mr. Carver became very angry. He said it is forbidden. I am not to ask again. July 3rd. I tried to leave today. Owen stopped me. He locked me in my room for 3 days. Mr. Carver says it is for my own protection. I am not safe outside this house. I do not feel safe inside it either. July 15th. I found items in the attic, belongings of other women, rings, letters, photographs. Mr. Carver said they belonged to previous housekeepers who could not adjust. I asked where they went. He did not answer. The final entry was dated August 9th. Owen brought a doctor today. Mr. Carver wants to know if I am pregnant. I am not. I see the disappointment in his eyes. I see something else too, something cold, I think. The sentence ended there. Ink trailed off the page like she had been interrupted. There were no more entries. Lita closed the diary. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the date. August 9th, 1872. Nearly a year ago. Where was Clara Voss now? That afternoon, Lita waited until she heard Thaddeus call for Owen, heard their voices in the downstairs study, heard the door close. Then she went to find the barn. It was not hard. Across the yard from the house, the doors were heavy. She pulled them open. Inside was darkness, the smell of hay and leather and something else, something chemical. She found Owen in the back corner, shoveling, moving hay from one pile to another, pointless work. The kind of work a man does when he needs to not think. What happened to Clara Voss? Owen's shovel stopped mid-swing. He did not turn around. She left. Her diary says you locked her in her room. Owen set the shovel down, slowly, turned to face her. Her diary's still here. Lita held up the small book. Where is she? Owen, I told you, she left. Women don't leave their diaries behind. Owen stepped closer. He was a big man, tall, broad shoulders. In the dim light of the barn, he looked more shadow than flesh. Maybe you should mind your own business, for your own safety. Is that a threat? It's advice. He moved past her, headed for the door. Lita called after him. I'm not afraid of you. Owen stopped, turned back. And in his eyes she saw something that made her breath catch. Not fear, pity. You should be afraid, just not of me. He walked out of the barn. Lita stood alone in the dimness, her heart pounding, her mind racing. She looked around the barn, searching for she did not know what. And then she saw it. In the far corner, hidden beneath old canvas, medical equipment, forceps, scalpels, bottles of chloroform, obstetric tools, and a wooden box, locked. Lita picked up the shovel Owen had abandoned, brought it down on the lock. Once, twice, the lock broke. Inside the box rings, wedding rings, at least 12 of them, and beneath the rings, a ledger. She opened it with trembling hands. Names, dates, notes written in a tight, controlled hand. Margaret Hale, April 1864. Terminated, Baron. Susan Klein, November 1865. Terminated, miscarriage month 4. Catherine Drew, March 1867. Terminated, refused compliance. The list went on. 12 names, 12 women, all terminated. The last entry was Clara Voss. August 1872. Terminated, refused to comply. Lita's vision blurred. The barn spun. Terminated did not mean left. It meant dead. A voice behind her. You weren't supposed to see that. She spun. Owen stood in the doorway, backlit by the afternoon sun, his face in shadow. Lita grabbed one of the scalpels from the medical equipment, held it out. You killed them. I didn't kill anyone. The ledger says terminated. Thaddeus wrote that, not me. But you helped him. Owen stepped into the barn, closed the door behind him. The light narrowed to thin lines through the gaps in the wood. Lita backed up. The scalpel shook in her hand. Stay back. Owen kept walking. Slow, steady. I disposed of the remains. Yes, you're a murderer. Owen lunged, faster than she expected. He grabbed her wrist, twisted. The scalpel clattered to the ground. He held both her wrists now, not hurting, just holding. Listen to me. Listen. I had no choice. If I didn't help, he'd have me sent back to prison. I would have hanged. Lita struggled. He held firm. So you helped him murder women instead? Owen's face was inches from hers now. She could see the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the absolute exhaustion of a man who had been carrying something too heavy for too long. They weren't murdered. Most died in childbirth, complications. This house is miles from a real doctor, and the ones who didn't die in childbirth. Owen released her wrists, stepped back, turned away. Thaddeus has a temper when he's disappointed. Lita's mind raced, the pieces clicking into place. You're not keeping me here because you turned me in. You're keeping me here to protect me from him. Owen did not deny it. The wanted poster. You lied. It's not in town yet, is it? A long pause. No, but it will be. Eventually. How much time do I have? I don't know. Could be weeks. Could be tomorrow. Lita's legs felt weak. She leaned against the barn wall. What do I do? Owen turned back to her. His face was unreadable. You give him what he wants. An heir? No. You give him hope. Keep him believing. And you wait. Wait for what? For him to die. He's got months at most. Consumption. And then you inherit this property as his widow, and the law can't touch you. Married women can't be prosecuted for crimes committed before marriage. Kansas law. Lita stared at him, understanding dawning. You want me to marry him? I want you to survive. She shook her head. The barn was too small, the air too thick. I can't. I won't. Then you hang for murder in Boston. Your choice. He walked past her, stopped at the door. By the way, there's something you should see. Past the northwest corner of the property, the old well. He left. Lita stood in the barn for a long time. Then she followed. The well was a quarter-mile from the house. Hidden in a stand of dead cottonwoods, the sun was setting, the sky bleeding red and orange. The well itself was old. Stone, a wooden cover over the top, boards nailed across, a sign hand-painted, condemned. Do not use. Lita approached slowly. The grass around the well was brown, dead. Nothing grew here. She knelt beside it, pulled at one of the boards. It came away easily, too easily, like it had been removed and replaced many times before. She looked down into the darkness, saw nothing. But the smell rose up to meet her. Rot, decay, death. Her stomach heaved, and then a voice behind her. Curious creatures, aren't you? All of you, she spun. Thaddeus was there, in his wheelchair. But how? The ground was too rough, the path too narrow. He could not have wheeled himself here. He sat in his chair, hands folded in his lap, smiling. The well's been dry for years. Nothing down there but rocks and rats. Lita's voice came out hoarse. What happened to Clara Voss? Thaddeus tilted his head. The smile grew wider. She's down there, with the others. The world tilted. Lita grabbed the edge of the well to steady herself. Thaddeus laughed. I'm joking, Mrs. Varine. Clara left town with a traveling salesman. Very scandalous. Very disappointing. But his eyes said something else. His eyes said, I am not joking at all. That night, Lita made her decision. She would run. She packed her valise. What little she had. The derringer. Some food stolen from the kitchen. The diary. She waited until midnight. Then she crept downstairs. The front door was locked. Deadbolt. No key in sight. The back door, also locked. She went to the windows, tried to open them. They would not budge. She looked closer. Nails. Every window on the first floor was nailed shut from the inside. She was trapped. Footsteps behind her. Owen. He stood at the base of the stairs, fully dressed despite the hour. I wouldn't run if I were you. Lita turned, the knife from her valise in her hand now, not the derringer. She could not afford to waste bullets on a warning. Get back. Owen raised his hands, calm. The nearest town is 12 miles. The wanted poster for Letitia Brennan arrived this morning at the sheriff's office. They're looking for you. Lita's vision swam. No, you're lying. Owen reached into his pocket, slowly, drew out a folded paper, unfolded it. The wanted poster, the same one from the depot. But this one was different. This one had a stamp, official, from the Dry Creek Sheriff. You killed a man in Boston, Aldous Brennan, state senator. They found his body in the Charles River with your hatpin through his eye. A flash of memory. Aldous's hand around her throat, his breath in her face, her hand closing around the hatpin on the dresser, the resistance as it slid through his eye socket. The wet sound, his scream. It was self-defense. Owen folded the poster, put it back in his pocket, maybe. But they don't care. You're wanted for murder. $500 reward. Half the men in this county would turn you in for that. Lita's hand trembled. The knife felt heavy. Including you. Owen's face was stone. I already did. The words hit her like a physical blow. The room spun. The knife fell from her hand. Owen stepped forward, caught her before she fell. I sent word to the sheriff yesterday. Told him I had information about Letitia Brennan. He'll be here tomorrow to collect you. Lita looked up at him, his face blurred through her tears. Why? Because Thaddeus owns me. And he told me to. He picked her up, carried her back upstairs. She did not fight. There was no point. He laid her on her bed, covered her with a blanket. I'm sorry. He left. The door closed. She heard the lock turn from the outside. Lita lay in the darkness and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow the sheriff would come. Tomorrow she would hang. Unless she gave Thaddeus what he wanted. Unless she married a dying man and waited for death to free her. Unless she became like the 12 women in the ledger. Hoping, waiting, terminating. She closed her eyes. Above her on the 3rd floor, footsteps walked back and forth, all through the night. And sometime near dawn she heard it again. That voice, faint, desperate. Help me. Lita opened her eyes, stared at the ceiling, and for the first time since Boston, she began to plan, not an escape, a survival. Because running had only ever been temporary. It was time to stay. It was time to fight. And if fighting meant marrying a monster and waiting for him to die, then that was what she would do. She would survive, whatever it took. The sun rose over Kansas, red sky, storm coming. Lita Vareen, who had been Letitia Brennan, who had killed a man and fled across half a country, who had signed a contract in blood and ink, stood at her window and watched the dawn break. In 12 hours everything would change. In 12 hours she would become Mrs. Thaddeus Carver. In 12 hours she would be trapped forever or free. She had not yet decided which. Lita woke to sunlight. Wrong. That was wrong. The windows in her room faced east. Morning light should have woken her hours ago. She sat up. Her head throbbed. Her mouth tasted like copper and ash. The room was the same, the narrow bed, the dresser, the wash basin, but something was different. The door was unlocked. She stood, unsteady. Her legs felt weak. How long had she slept? She went to the door, opened it slowly. The hallway was empty, silent. Downstairs she heard voices, low, conversational. She descended the stairs, each step careful. Each creak of wood like a gunshot in the stillness. The dining room, a table she had not seen before. Set for 3, plates, silverware, a pot of coffee steaming in the center. Thaddeus sat at the head of the table. Still in his wheelchair, reading a newspaper, the Kansas City Star, 2 days old. Owen stood at the stove in the adjacent kitchen, cooking. Eggs cracked into a pan, the smell of bacon frying. Neither of them looked at her as she entered. Lita stood in the doorway, waiting. Thaddeus turned a page of his newspaper, did not look up. "Good morning, Mrs. Vareen. I trust you slept well?" Lita's voice came out hoarse. "You drugged me." Thaddeus folded the paper, set it aside, finally looked at her. "I had Owen put a sedative in your water. You were hysterical. It was for your own good." Owen set a plate of eggs and bacon on the table. Did not meet Lita's eyes. She wanted to scream, to throw the plate, to run. Instead she sat. Survival first, rage later. Owen poured coffee, 3 cups, set one in front of Lita, one in front of Thaddeus, kept one for himself. He sat at the far end of the table. The distance between them felt like miles. Lita stared at her plate, at the eggs going cold, at the coffee she could not bring herself to drink. Owen. He did not look up. "The wanted poster, you said it arrived at the depot." Owen set down his fork carefully, still did not meet her eyes. "It did. And you told the depot master you had not seen anyone matching the description." "Yes." Silence. Just the sound of Thaddeus turning another page of his newspaper. Lita's voice was low, controlled. "Why?" Owen's jaw worked. He picked up his coffee cup, set it down without drinking. "Because I needed time." "Time for what?" "To decide what to do." Thaddeus looked up from his paper, amused. "Owen is loyal, to me, not to the law. Is that not right, Owen?" Owen's hands curled into fists on the table. "Yes, sir." Thaddeus turned his attention to Lita, his pale eyes assessing. "You see, Mrs. Varun, or should I say Mrs. Carver now, you have nothing to fear from Owen. He does what I tell him to do. And I have told him that you are under my protection." He paused, let the word hang. "For now." "What does that mean?" "It means as long as you fulfill your part of our agreement, you remain safe. Owen will not turn you in. The law will not find you here. But if I refuse..." Thaddeus smiled, cold. "Then Owen's loyalty shifts back to the law, and $500 is a great deal of money." He folded his newspaper, Set it aside. Now, let us discuss the terms of our arrangement. Thaddeus leaned back in his wheelchair, satisfied. So, you see, Letitia, we can help each other. I get what I want. You get to live. A fair exchange. Lita's mind raced. Options, outcomes, calculations. She could refuse. Hang in a week. She could agree. Become a broodmare for a dying man. Hope he died before he hurt her. She could run. But where the wanted posters were already out, 12 miles to town, she would not make it. There was no good choice. Only survival. She met Thaddeus's eyes. I want it in writing. A contract that says if you die, I inherit everything. No family claims. No disputes. Thaddeus's smile widened. Already prepared. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded document, slid it across the table. Lita read it, slowly, carefully. Legal language, but clear enough. Upon the death of Thaddeus Carver, all property and holdings passed to his legal wife, Lita Varin Carver, in perpetuity. She looked up. Who witnessed this, Owen? She glanced at Owen. He nodded once. And if I die before you, then everything goes to my brother in St. Louis. But I suspect you will outlive me. Lita picked up the pen Thaddeus offered. One more condition. Thaddeus raised an eyebrow. Oh, I am not locked in my room. I am not a prisoner. Agreed. You will have the run of the house, except the third floor. Why? Because I said so. Lita stared at him. He stared back. Neither blinked. Finally she signed. Thaddeus took the contract. Folded it, put it back in his jacket. Excellent. We will have the ceremony tomorrow. Owen will serve as witness. After that, we will begin our attempts at conception. He said it like discussing crop rotation. Lita stood. The chair scraped against the floor. I need air. Be back by 6. Dinner is promptly at 6. She walked out, into the hallway, out the front door. Outside, the Kansas heat hit her like a wall. The sky was cloudless, bluey and endless and indifferent. She walked. No destination, just movement. Anything to escape the house. She found herself at the barn. Inside was cooler. The smell of hay and old leather, dust motes, drifted in shafts of light through gaps in the walls. Owen was in the back corner, shoveling hay, moving it from one pile to another, the kind of work a man does when he needs to not think. Lita stopped just inside the door. Why did you lie to me? The shoveling stopped. Owen did not turn around. About what? Last night. You said the sheriff would come for me. You said the poster had arrived at his office. Owen set the shovel against the wall, turned slowly. I said the poster had arrived at the depot. I never said the sheriff had it. You let me believe he did. Owen crossed his arms, defensive. If I had told you the truth, what would you have done? I would have run. Exactly. And you would have made it maybe 10 miles before someone saw that poster and turned you in for the reward. So you lied to trap me here. I lied to keep you alive. Lita stepped closer, anger rising like heat in her chest. By forcing me to marry a man who has murdered 12 women, Owen flinched, the number hitting like a physical blow. I am not forcing you to do anything. You signed that contract of your own free will. Because you made me think I had no other choice. You do not have another choice. The posters are real. The reward is real. By now half the county knows to look for you. Then I should have taken my chances. You would have died. Maybe, but at least I would have died free. Owen's face darkened. He stepped toward her. Close enough she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the lines carved by years of compromise. You think running is freedom? You think dying in a ditch with a bullet in your back is better than surviving? Surviving as what? As a broodmare for a dying man. As another name in his ledger. Owen's hands curled into fists at his sides. You want to know what I get out of this? You want to know why I keep you here? Yes. Because I have stood by and watched 12 women die in this house. 12. I buried them. I hid the evidence. I kept his secrets. His voice cracked. And every single night I lie awake and see their faces. Margaret, Susan, Clara, all of them. He stepped back, turned away. I cannot save them. They are dead. But maybe I can save one. Lita's anger wavered. Just slightly. You cannot save me by caging me. I am not caging you. I am buying you time. Time for what? For him to die. He has 6 months, maybe less. You survive that long, you inherit everything. You become a widow, a property owner. The law cannot touch you then. And what if I do not survive 6 months? Owen met her eyes. Then I will bury you too. and I will add your name to the list of my sins." He picked up the shovel again. "Now get out of my barn. You have a wedding to prepare for." Lita did not move. "I will survive, Owen, with or without your help. And when Thaddeus is dead, I will burn this place to the ground." Owen looked at her. Something like respect flickered across his face. "Good." She turned to leave. Owen's voice stopped her. "Mrs. Vereen." She looked back. "For what it is worth, I am sorry." "Sorry does not bury 12 women. No, it does not." She walked out. The box of rings was still there, open, the ledger beside it. She picked up the ledger, flipped through the pages. 12 names, 12 women, all terminated. She turned to Owen. "Tell me everything." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Sit down. This will take a while." They sat on hay bales facing each other. The barn was silent except for the wind outside. Owen began. "My real name is Owen Merrick. 8 years ago I was sentenced to hang for manslaughter." He paused. Gathered himself. "I was working a bar in Dodge City. There was a man, drunk, beating a woman in the alley behind the building. His wife. I told him to stop. He pulled a knife. We fought. I killed him." Lita said nothing. Waited. "The court said it was murder because I did not have to get involved. The woman was not my concern. They sentenced me to hang. But one of the jurors felt differently. Thaddeus Carver. He was in Dodge on business. Somehow he got the jury hung. Mistrial. I got life in prison instead." He rubbed his face with both hands. "Prison work camp. Mining. My leg was crushed in a collapse. The camp doctor said I would die from infection. Thaddeus paid for my medical care, paid to have me transferred to a hospital, paid for surgery. When I recovered, he offered me a job. Work here, room and board, enough money to live." Lita leaned forward. "Why would he do that?" Owen's laugh was bitter. "I thought it was kindness. Guilt, maybe. He had voted to acquit me. He felt responsible. But it wasn't kindness. No. What was it? He needed someone who owed him everything. Someone with no family, no ties, no one who would ask questions, someone who could disappear if necessary." "Yes." Lita looked at the ledger again. "When did the bride start coming?" 6 months after I arrived. Margaret Hale was first. She was young, hopeful. Thaddeus married her. She moved in. What happened? She did not get pregnant. 3 months, 6 months, a year. Thaddeus became angry. He blamed her, said she was defective. Did he hurt her? Owen's silence was answer enough. "One night I heard screaming. I went to her room. Thaddeus was there. She was on the floor, bleeding. He said she had fallen. But I saw his hands. She died that night. Hemorrhage. Thaddeus told me to bury her. Quietly. Tell no one. And you did." Owen looked at his hands. Scarred. Rough. "I did, because if I refused he would send me back to prison. I would hang. So you became his accomplice." "Yes." "How many?" "You saw the ledger." 12. "Did you kill any of them yourself?" "No, never. Most died in childbirth. Complications. No doctor would come this far for a woman in labor. By the time we could get help, it was too late." "And the others?" "Thaddeus has a temper. When he is disappointed." Lita felt sick, but she pressed on. "Why does he want an heir so badly?" Owen hesitated. "Then he is sterile. He has always been sterile. But he cannot admit it. His father was a cruel man. Told Thaddeus he was worthless because he could not produce sons. So he marries women and blames them when they do not conceive." "Yes." "And when they die or leave, he finds another." "Yes." "How did you know I was wanted?" "The poster arrived yesterday. I recognized your face from the sketch. Did you really turn me in?" Lita's breath caught. "You lied." "Yes." "Why? Because if I told you the truth, you would have run. And you would not have made it 12 miles before someone saw that poster and collected the reward. I could have tried. You would have died trying. So you lied to trap me here." "I lied to keep you alive." Lita stood, paced. The barn felt too small. "You are asking me to marry a man who has killed 12 women, to share his bed, to hope he dies before he kills me too." Owen stood as well. "I am asking you to survive. Any way you can. And what do you get out of this?" Owen's face cracked, just for a moment. She saw the pain underneath. "Redemption. Maybe. I could not save the others. Maybe I can save you." Lita stopped pacing, looked at him. "You cannot save me, Owen. I have to save myself. I know. Then help me. How? She stepped closer. Teach me about this place, about him, about what I need to do to survive until he dies. Owen studied her face, looking for what she did not know. Finally he nodded. All right. They spent the rest of the day talking. Owen told her everything. Thaddeus's routines, his moods, his triggers, the house, which rooms were safe, which were not, the land, where the property ended, where help might be if she needed it. The third floor. Lita interrupted. What is on the third floor? Owen hesitated. That is where I live. Why is it locked? To keep people out. Owen did not answer. Lita tried a different approach. I heard footsteps, a voice asking for help. Old houses make noise. Owen. He met her eyes. Do not go up there, please, for your own safety. Is someone up there? No, you are lying. If I am, it is for a reason. What reason? Owen stood. Conversation over. Stay away from the third floor, that is all I will say. He walked out of the barn. Lita sat alone in the dimness, the box of rings at her feet, the ledger in her hands. 12 women, all dead. She would not be the 13th. That night she could not sleep again. She lay in bed and listened to the house, footsteps above, back and forth, endless. At 2 a.m. she made a decision. She would find out what was on the third floor. She dressed, took her oil lamp, moved silently down the hall. The stairs to the third floor were still there, still locked. But this time she came prepared. From her valise she pulled a hairpin, bent it, worked it into the padlock. She had learned this trick in Boston from a maid who had been locked in closets by her employer. The maid had taught Lita before she died. Click. The lock opened. Lita removed it, set it aside, opened the door. The stairs were steep, dark. She climbed slowly. At the top was another door, unlocked. She pushed it open. The third floor was not what she expected. It was not a bedroom. It was a workshop, medical equipment everywhere, tables, instruments, bottles of chemicals, and photographs, dozens of them, pinned to the walls, women in wedding dresses, all with Thaddeus, smiling, hopeful. She recognized some of the faces from the ledger: Margaret Hale, Susan Klein, Clara Voss, all dead now. In the corner was a desk, papers scattered across it. Lita moved closer. Diagrams, anatomical drawings, notes in Thaddeus's handwriting, female reproductive system, optimal positioning, timing, frequency. He had been studying, trying to understand why his wives did not conceive, never once considering that the problem might be him. Lita's skin crawled, and then she heard it. Breathing. Behind her. She spun. Owen stood in the doorway, shirtless. The lamplight caught the scars on his chest again. His face was unreadable. I told you not to come up here. Lita held her ground. Why, what are you hiding? This. He gestured to the room. This is what he does. When he is not with you, he studies, plans, tries to understand why it never works, because he is sterile. He does not know that, or he knows and cannot accept it. Lita looked at the photographs again. All those women, all those hopeful faces. Did you take these pictures? Yes. Why, he wanted documentation, proof of the marriages, in case anyone asked. And when they died, I removed the photos from the house, brought them here, so he would not have to look at them. That was kind of you. Owen's laugh was hollow. It was cowardice. I should have stopped him after the first one, after Margaret. I should have gone to the law, but you did not. No, because you were afraid. Yes. Lita set her lamp down on the desk. I understand fear, Owen. I have been afraid every day since Boston. What happened in Boston, she had not told him. Not fully. Now, in this room full of ghosts, she did. I was a governess for a state senator, Aldous Brennan, respectable family, good pay. She paused. He cornered me one night after his wife had gone to bed. He had been drinking. He grabbed me, put his hand around my throat. I fought back. There was a hat pin on the dresser. I grabbed it. I did not mean to kill him. I just wanted him to stop. But the pin went through his eye, into his brain. He died instantly. Her voice was flat, factual. I ran, took what money I could find, bought a train ticket west, changed my name. When I saw the mail-order bride advertisement, I thought it was a way to disappear, become someone new. She looked at Owen. Instead, I found another monster. Owen crossed the room, stood in front of her. You are not like them, the other women. Yes, they were innocent. You have killed, so have you. Owen flinched. Yes, we are the same Owen. Survivors. We do what we must. He reached out, hesitated, then placed his hand on her shoulder. Gentle, then survive. Marry him. Wait for him to die. Inherit this place, and live. And you, I will help you. Any way I can. Why? Because 8 years ago I stood by and let a woman die. My wife. The man I killed was beating her, but by the time I intervened she had internal injuries. She died a week later. I have been trying to atone ever since. Lita looked up at him. His face was close, his eyes tired and sad. You cannot atone for the past by sacrificing the future, maybe not, but I can try. They stood like that for a long moment. Two people who had done terrible things, two people trying to live with it. Then Owen stepped back. You should go, before he wakes. Lita picked up her lamp. As she reached the door, she stopped. Owen? Yes, thank you. For what? For not turning me in. For real. He almost smiled. Do not thank me yet. You still have to survive him. She went back downstairs, to her room, to her narrow bed. But she did not sleep. Tomorrow was the wedding. Tomorrow she would become Mrs. Thaddeus Carver. Tomorrow her life would change forever, or end. She had not decided which. The wedding was at noon. No guests, no celebration, just a transaction. Owen stood as witness. A traveling preacher from 3 towns over performed the ceremony. He did not ask questions. He took his $5 and left. Thaddeus wore his best suit, black, pressed. He sat in his wheelchair at the altar such as it was, a makeshift altar in the sitting room. Lita wore the only dress she had that was not black. Dark blue, simple, no veil, no flowers. The preacher spoke the words, Do you take this man? Do you take this woman? In sickness and in health. In sickness, Lita thought, there would be no health. She said, I do. Thaddeus said, I do. The preacher pronounced them man and wife. Thaddeus did not kiss her, just reached out and took her hand. His grip was cold, weak, or so it seemed. That evening, dinner was silent. Thaddeus sat at the head of the table, Lita at his right, Owen at the far end. They ate roast chicken, potatoes, bread. No one spoke. After dinner, Thaddeus wheeled himself to the stairs. Owen helped me to my room. Owen lifted Thaddeus from the wheelchair, carried him up the stairs like a child. Lita followed, dread building in her chest. Thaddeus's room was on the 2nd floor, at the far end of the hall. The door had been closed every time Lita had passed it. Now it stood open. Inside was a large bed, 4 posts, dark wood, a dresser, a washstand. Owen laid Thaddeus on the bed. Thaddeus dismissed him with a wave. Leave us. Owen looked at Lita. His eyes said, I am sorry. He left, closed the door. Lita stood just inside the room. Every muscle in her body screamed run, but there was nowhere to run to. Thaddeus propped himself up on the pillows, gestured to the bed. Come here, Mrs. Carver. Lita's feet did not move. I am tired. Perhaps tomorrow. Thaddeus's smile was cold. We had an agreement. Every day. Every night. Not tonight. Yes, tonight. Lita's hand moved toward the pocket of her dress. The Derringer was there. 2 shots. She could end this now. But then what? She would hang anyway. For Boston. For this. Thaddeus patted the bed. Come. I am not a patient man. Lita took 1 step forward, then another. She reached the edge of the bed. Thaddeus reached for her wrist. And his grip was iron. Strong. Too strong for a dying man. She tried to pull away. He held firm. His other hand grabbed her shoulder, yanked her down onto the bed. She opened her mouth to scream. He clamped his hand over her mouth, and then he stood, walked around the bed, stood over her. Lita's mind could not process it. He was not paralyzed. He had been faking the entire time. Thaddeus smiled down at her, a real smile now, full of teeth and malice. Did you really think I was crippled? He leaned down, put his face close to hers. I needed to see which ones would run, which ones would stay, which ones were desperate enough to bind themselves to a dying man. You stayed. Good. Lita's scream was muffled by his hand. She thrashed, kicked. Her hand found the Derringer in her pocket. She pulled it free. aimed. Thaddeus grabbed her wrist, twisted. The gun fell to the floor. He laughed. Fight all you want, it makes it more interesting. The door burst open. Owen. He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbed Thaddeus by the collar, threw him against the wall. Thaddeus hit hard. Slid down. You said you would wait. Thaddeus rubbed his shoulder, still smiling. I am done waiting. Owen stepped between Thaddeus and Lita. She is not yours to take by force. She is my wife. She is mine by law. Owen's hands curled into fists. Then the law is wrong. Thaddeus stood, brushed off his suit. Owen, move aside. No, I am giving you an order. I do not take orders anymore. Thaddeus's face changed. The smile died. Something colder took its place. You forget your position. You are a convict. I own you. You own nothing. Thaddeus reached into his jacket, pulled out a gun. Small, silver, a gentleman's pistol. He aimed it at Owen. Move aside or I will shoot you. Owen did not move. Shoot me then. Thaddeus's finger tightened on the trigger. Lita screamed. No. The gun fired. The sound was deafening in the small room. The bullet struck Owen high on the left shoulder. He staggered, grabbed the wound. Blood welled between his fingers. But he did not fall. He lunged, faster than a wounded man should move, desperation overriding pain. He crashed into Thaddeus. They hit the dresser. The mirror shattered. Glass rained down. Owen's right fist connected with Thaddeus's jaw. Once. Again. The third blow sent Thaddeus reeling. The gun fell from Thaddeus's hand, skittered across the floor. Owen dove for it. Thaddeus kicked him in the wounded shoulder. Owen roared, pain, white-hot, his vision blurred. Thaddeus scrambled for the gun, grabbed it, rolled onto his back, aimed at Owen's head. Owen swept his leg out, caught Thaddeus's ankles. Thaddeus fell backward. The gun went flying again. Both men lunged. Owen got there first. His hand closed around the grip. He rolled, came up on one knee, aimed. Thaddeus froze, on his hands and knees, eyes wide. Owen. Owen's hand was steady, despite the blood running down his arm, despite the pain screaming through his shoulder. This is for all of them. The 12 names in the ledger, the women in the well, Clara, Margaret, Susan, all of them. He fired. The bullet hit Thaddeus' center mass, just below the sternum. Thaddeus looked down at the wound, surprised, opened his mouth. Blood poured out instead of words. He fell forward, twitched once, went still. Owen lowered the gun. His arm dropped to his side. The room spun, the blood loss catching up to him. He swayed, fell to one knee. Lita was there, kneeling beside him. Owen. He looked up at her, his face pale, lips going gray. You are alive. For now. She pressed her hands to his shoulder. Blood pulsed between her fingers. So much blood. Too much. I can stop the bleeding. I can save you. Owen shook his head. Slow. Artery is severed. Can feel it, bleeding from the inside too. No, there must be something. He touched her face with a bloody hand. There is not, and we both know it. Listen to me. When they come, when they find him dead, you tell them I did this. You tried to stop me. I went mad. Killed your husband. You are innocent. Understand. Number 1, I will not let you take the blame. You do not have a choice. His eyes were fading. Shock setting in, blood loss taking him under. I was supposed to hang 8 years ago. This is my choice. Let me make it. Owen, please. His hand touched her face, left a streak of blood across her cheek. Live free. His eyes closed. His hand dropped. But his chest still rose and fell. Shallow. Labored. But breathing. He was unconscious, not dead. Not yet. Thaddeus stood over him, breathing hard. Stupid. You were always stupid. He turned back to Lita. She had grabbed the derringer from the floor. She aimed it at Thaddeus with both hands. Her hands shook. Thaddeus laughed. You will not shoot me. You need me alive. I am your protection from the law. Lita's finger tightened on the trigger. I would rather hang. Thaddeus took a step toward her. Then, shoot. Another step. Shoot me. He was 3 feet away now. 2 feet. Do it. 1 foot. His hand reached for the gun. Lita pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. Misfire. Thaddeus grabbed the gun from her hand, threw it across the room. Now! Where were we? He grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the bed. Owen's voice, weak, rasping. Thaddeus. Thaddeus turned. Owen was on his knees, blood everywhere. In his hand he held something. The second gun from Thaddeus's jacket. He must have grabbed it during the fight. Owen aimed. Thaddeus's eyes widened. Owen. Owen's hand steadied. This is for all of them. He fired. The bullet hit Thaddeus in the chest. Thaddeus looked down at the wound, surprised. He opened his mouth to speak. Blood poured out. He fell, hit the floor, twitched once, went still. The room filled with silence. Lita stood frozen. His eyes were fading now, the gray turning to colorless, blood loss taking him deeper. But you can save yourself. Owen, please. He touched her hand one last time. Leave free, Lita. His eyes closed. His breathing slowed, shallow, faint. He lost consciousness. Owen Merrick lay dying on the floor of Thaddeus Carver's bedroom, and Lita Vereen Carver, widow, sat beside him and screamed. She screamed until her voice was gone. She screamed until she heard the pounding on the front door, until she heard voices. Marshall, open up. Someone had heard the gunshots. Someone had come. Lita looked at Owen's body, looked at Thaddeus's body, looked at her bloody hands, and she made her choice. She stood, wiped the blood on her dress, ran to the door, opened it. The marshal stood there, 3 deputies behind him. Marshal Grant Talbot, 50 years old, gray beard, badge on his chest. Mrs. Carver Lita's voice was hoarse from screaming. He killed him. Owen killed my husband. The marshal pushed past her. Into the room. He saw the bodies, saw Owen with the gun nearby, saw Thaddeus with the bullet wound. What happened here? Lita's story came out in gasps. Half truth, half lie. My husband, we were. Owen burst in. He had a gun. He shot him. I tried to stop him. Owen turned the gun on me. My husband tried to save me. Owen shot him too. The marshal knelt beside Thaddeus, checked for a pulse. Dead. He moved to Owen. Checked. This one too. He stood, looked at Lita. You are hurt. Lita shook her head. The blood is theirs. The marshal studied her face, looking for lies. Lita met his gaze, did not blink. Finally he nodded. We will need a full statement. Tomorrow. After you have rested. He gestured to his deputies. Get the undertaker. 2 bodies. As they moved the bodies, Lita stood in the doorway. She watched them carry Owen down the stairs. His arm hung limp. Blood dripped on the floor. She had lied for him. She had let him take the blame. She had survived, but the cost was everything. That night she sat alone in the dark house, in the sitting room, on the floor. The house was silent now. No footsteps above, no voices, just silence. She had won. Thaddeus was dead. She was his widow. She would inherit. The law could not touch her now. She was free, but freedom felt like ash in her mouth. She thought of Owen, his last words. This is my choice. She thought of the 12 women, all dead, all buried in unmarked graves. She thought of Clara Voss and her diary and her hope. She thought of herself, Letitia Brennan, murderess, fugitive, survivor. And she wept. Not for Thaddeus. He deserved his death, but for Owen, who had saved her, who had died so she could live, and for herself. For the woman she had been, the woman who had believed in goodness, in justice, in hope. That woman was dead too. What remained was something else, something harder, something that would do whatever it took to survive. She stood, walked to the window. Outside the Kansas night was black, starless, a storm coming. She pressed her hand to the glass, and she made a vow. She would survive. She would take this house, this land, this blood-soaked legacy, and she would burn it all down. Then build something new from the ashes, something good, something that mattered for Owen, for Clara. For all of them, she would survive, and she would make it mean something. Lita stood in the doorway, blood on her hands, blood on her dress, blood on the floorboards at her feet. Behind her, 2 bodies, Thaddeus Carver, her husband of 6 hours, a hole in his chest where his heart used to be, eyes open, staring at nothing. Owen Merrick, the man who had saved her, twice now, blood pooling beneath him, his chest still rising, falling, barely. The pounding on the front door grew louder. Marshall, open up! Lita looked down at her hands, at the derringer still clutched in her right palm. 1 shot fired, 1 misfire, useless now. She looked at Owen. He was conscious, barely. His eyes found hers. His lips moved. No sound came out, but she could read the words. Run. She shook her head. I will not leave you. Owen's hand moved, slow, painful. He pointed at Thaddeus's body, then at himself, then at her. He was telling her the story, the lie she needed to tell. The pounding stopped, a crash, wood splintering. They were breaking down the door. Lita knelt beside Owen, put her face close to his. I will not let you die for me, already dying. His voice was a rasp, wet, blood in his lungs. Make it mean something. Footsteps on the stairs, heavy boots, multiple men. Owen's hand closed around hers, squeezed. Tell them I killed him. Tell them I went mad. Tell them you tried to stop me. I cannot. You must. Why? His eyes held hers, gray fading to colorless. Because I already killed a man once. They will believe it. You are innocent in their eyes. A bride. A victim. Use that. The footsteps were in the hallway now. Owen. Live. He let go of her hand, closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. The marshal burst through the door. Marshal Grant Talbot, 50 years old, 3 deputies behind him, guns drawn. They took in the scene. The blood, the bodies. Lita kneeling between them. The marshal holstered his weapon, approached slowly. Mrs. Carver. Are you hurt? Lita looked up at him, her face blank, shock settling over her like a veil. He killed him. Her voice was hollow, distant. Who killed who, Owen? He killed my husband. The marshal knelt beside Thaddeus, checked for a pulse, found none. What happened? Lita stood, swayed. One of the deputies caught her arm. The story came out. Mechanical. Rehearsed by necessity in the span of seconds. My husband and I. We retired to his room after dinner. Owen brought him upstairs, helped him to bed. She paused, breathed. Owen left. Or I thought he left, but he came back. He had a gun. He was shouting. Something about all the years, all the lies. He aimed at Thaddeus. Her voice broke. Real tears now, for Owen, not for Thaddeus. I tried to stop him. I stepped between them. Thaddeus pushed me aside, told Owen to leave. Owen fired. She gestured to Thaddeus's body. I screamed. Owen pointed the gun at me, said I was next. Thaddeus tried to protect me, tried to fight Owen for the gun. She looked at Owen's body. They struggled. The gun went off again. Owen was hit. He fell. The marshal moved to Owen, checked his pulse. He is still alive. Barely. Send for the doctor. One of the deputies ran. The marshal stood, studied Lita's face. Why would Owen do this, I do not know. He seemed strange tonight, agitated. The marshal walked around the room, taking in details. The shattered mirror, the overturned dresser, the blood spatter on the walls. His eyes lingered on the derringer near the bed. That your gun? Lita followed his gaze. My husband's. He kept it for protection. The marshal picked it up, sniffed the barrel. Not fired. He set it down, looked at the gun near Owen's hand. Thaddeus's gentleman's pistol. This one was. He picked it up carefully, examined it. 2 shots fired. One in the chamber. He looked at Owen, at the wound in his shoulder, at the wound in his side. Both bullets in Owen. Lita said nothing. Let him draw his own conclusions. The doctor arrived, old man, shaking hands. He examined Owen quickly. He is dying. Shoulder wound severed an artery. Blood loss is too severe. Infection is already setting in. Nothing I can do. How long hours? Maybe less. The marshal nodded, gestured to his deputies. Take him to the jail. Let him die in a cell. They lifted Owen. He did not resist, did not open his eyes. Blood dripped from his wounds as they carried him down the stairs. Lita watched them go. The marshal turned to her. You should rest, Mrs. Carver. I will need a full statement tomorrow. After the funeral, there will be 2 funerals. The marshal's face softened. Just slightly. I am sorry for your loss. Thaddeus was a good man. Lita looked at him. At this man who knew nothing, who saw only surfaces. Yes, he was. The lie tasted like ash. The marshal left, took his deputies with him, promised to send the undertaker. Lita stood alone in the death room. She looked at the blood on the floor, at the broken mirror, at the empty space where Owen had been. She had lied for him. She had let him take the blame. And now he would die in a cell, alone, branded a murderer. She sank to the floor, put her head in her bloody hands, and for the second time that night, She wept. The next 3 days passed in a fog. The undertaker came, removed Thaddeus's body, prepared it for burial. The funeral was small. A handful of townspeople who had known Thaddeus, who had done business with him, who murmured their sympathies to Lita and looked at her with pity. The widow, so young, so unfortunate, married only hours before her husband was murdered. They buried Thaddeus in the town cemetery, under a headstone that read, "Beloved husband, respected citizen." More lies carved in stone. Lita stood at the graveside in her black dress, the same funeral dress she had arrived in. Full circle. She did not cry. The town talked. About Owen Merrick, the convict, the murderer. They had always known he was dangerous. Thaddeus had been too kind, too trusting. Look where it got him. Owen was in the jail, dying slowly. The doctor checked on him twice a day, said it was a miracle he was still alive, said he would not last another day, but Owen held on. Lita wanted to visit him. The marshal said no, too dangerous. Owen was violent, unpredictable. She should stay away. On the second day, she insisted. The marshal relented, but only with him present, and only for 5 minutes. The jail was small, 2 cells. Owen was in the back one. He lay on a cot, shirtless, bandages wrapped around his torso, soaked through with blood. His face was gray, sunken. He looked like a corpse already, but his eyes were open. Lita approached the bars. The marshal stayed by the door. Owen, his head turned slowly, looked at her. "Mrs. Carver." His voice was barely a whisper. "How are you?" A ghost of a smile. "Dying. You surviving. Good." Silence. The marshal shifted his weight, impatient. Lita stepped closer to the bars, lowered her voice. "I will find a way to save you." Owen shook his head, slow. "No saving me. Shoulder wound severed the artery. Been bleeding slow ever since. Infection has set in. Can feel the fever burning through me. There must be something." "There is. What?" He gestured weakly for her to come closer. She pressed her face to the bars. Owen whispered, so low the marshal could not hear. "In Thaddeus's study. False bottom in the desk drawer. Left side. Documents. Ledgers. Proof he was stealing from the county. Forging land deeds." He coughed. Blood flecked his lips. "Use it. Leverage. Get yourself clear. Clear of whatever comes next," the marshal called out. "Time is up, Mrs. Carver." Lita looked into Owen's eyes. "Thank you. For everything." Owen's hand moved through the bars, touched hers. "Live well. Live free." She squeezed his hand, turned, walked out of the jail. The marshal locked the door behind her. "She is a good woman, visiting a man who killed her husband." The marshal shook his head. "Too good for this world." Lita said nothing. She went home, to the dark house, to the covered windows, to Thaddeus's study. She found the desk. Solid oak. 3 drawers on each side. Left side, bottom drawer. She opened it. Empty except for old papers. Receipts. Nothing important. She felt along the bottom of the drawer. Wood. Solid. Or seemingly solid. She pressed along the edges. One corner gave, just slightly. She pried at it with a letter opener. The false bottom lifted. Beneath it, a stack of documents. She pulled them out, spread them on the desk. Land deeds, dozens of them, all in Thaddeus's handwriting, all forged. He had stolen property, sold it, kept the money. For years. And beneath the deeds, ledgers, account books, dates, names, amounts. Half the town was implicated. Men who had bought land cheap, who had not asked questions, who had profited from Thaddeus's crimes, including Marshal Grant Talbot. A deed for his house, sold by Thaddeus, forged signature of the previous owner. Lita sat back in the chair. This was power. This was leverage. This was survival. She gathered the documents, hid them in her valise, the same valise she had arrived with. Then she went to the jail. The morning after the funeral, Lita went to the marshal's office. She carried her valise. Inside were the documents from Thaddeus's desk. The marshal was at his desk, coffee cup in hand. He looked up when she entered. "Mrs. Carver, I was about to send for you." Her heart stopped. "Why?" "Owen Merrick is still alive." The world tilted. She gripped the edge of his desk. "What?" The marshal stood, gestured to the back room. "The doctor worked on him all night. Managed to stop the bleeding, remove the bullet. It was close, but he survived. How long does he have? The marshal's face darkened. Not long. The wound is infected. Without proper medical care, he will be dead in 2 days, maybe 3. Can I see him? The marshal hesitated. He killed your husband. Lita met his eyes. He saved my life. The marshal studied her face, looking for what she did not know. Finally, he nodded. 5 minutes. He led her to the cell. Owen lay on the cot, his shoulder bandaged, his face gray, but his eyes were open. Mrs. Carver. His voice was barely a whisper. Lita approached the bars. You are alive. Barely. The marshal said you have 2 days. If that, I will not let you die. Owen's laugh was bitter. You cannot stop it. Yes, I can. She turned to the marshal. I need to speak with you. Privately. The marshal frowned. About what? About why you are going to let Owen Merrick go free. In the marshal's office, Lita opened her valise. She spread the documents across his desk. Land deeds, ledgers, account books, all in Thaddeus's handwriting. The marshal picked one up. Read it. His face went pale. Where did you get these? My husband's study. The marshal sat down heavily. He was forging deeds for years, selling land that was not his, splitting the profits with men who did not ask questions. The marshal looked up at her. Half the town is on these lists, including you. She slid a specific deed across the desk, the marshal's house, purchased from Thaddeus 3 years prior. The original owner never sold it. Thaddeus forged his signature. You bought stolen property. The marshal's hands shook. I did not know. Ignorance does not erase guilt. What do you want? Lita leaned forward. I want Owen Merrick's name cleared. I want him released. I want him to walk out of here a free man. He killed Thaddeus. Thaddeus was a monster. He killed at least 12 women. I have proof. She pulled out the ledger from the barn, slid it across. The marshal read it. His face turned green. 12. Probably more. Those are just the ones he kept records of. Why did Owen kill him? Because Thaddeus was going to rape me. Owen stopped him. Owen saved my life. The marshal was silent for a long time. If I let Owen go, what happens to these documents? Lita gathered them back into her valise. They burn. All of them. The town never knows. Your house stays yours. The land deals stay buried. And if I refuse, I send copies to the territorial court, to the newspapers in Kansas City and Denver. Your career ends. Half the men in this town lose everything. The marshal stared at her. You would destroy the town to save one man. Lita's voice was cold. Yes. Another long silence. Then the marshal said, there is another way. She forced herself to breathe. I would like to arrange his burial. That is kind of you, considering. He killed my husband, but he was still a human being. The marshal nodded. We will bury him tomorrow. Potter's Field. Unmarked grave. Standard for criminals. No. The marshal looked up. No. Lita set her valise on his desk, opened it, pulled out a single document. The deed to the marshal's house. She slid it across the desk. The marshal picked it up. His face went pale. Where did you get this Thaddeus's study? This is private. This is fraud. She pulled out another document. And another. Spread them across the desk like playing cards. Thaddeus was forging land deeds, selling property that was not his, pocketing the money. She leaned forward. You bought your house from him. You did not ask where he got it. You paid half what it was worth. That is not. I did not know. Ignorance is not innocence, Marshal. The marshal stood. His hand moved toward his gun. Are you threatening me? Lita did not flinch. I am offering you a choice. What choice? Help me. Or I send these documents to the territorial court, along with a list of every man in this town who profited from Thaddeus's crimes. You would destroy this town, if I have to. The marshal's hand dropped from his gun. He sat back down. What do you want? Owen Merrick was not a murderer. He killed your husband. My husband was a monster. He killed 12 women before me. I have proof. She pulled out the ledger from the barn, the one with the names, the dates, the terminations. The marshal read it. His face went from pale to green. 12, at least. Why did Owen kill him to save me? Thaddeus was going to. He was. She stopped. Could not say it. The marshal understood. Owen saved your life. Yes, so you want. What? His name cleared. I want him buried with dignity. I want his record expunged. I want the town to know he was not a monster. The marshal looked at the documents, at the ledger, at Lita. If I do this, if I help you, You bury these, Lita nodded. All of it. Burned. Gone. The marshal was silent for a long time. Then he said, "There is another way. What way we stage his death? Make it look like he was hanged. But use a trick noose. He survives. We bury an empty coffin. He leaves town under a new name. He is already dead." The marshal smiled, grim. "Is he?" Lita's heart stopped. "You said—" "I said he passed. Not that he died. He lost consciousness, stopped breathing for a bit. But the doctor revived him. He is alive. Barely. But yes, why did you lie to see what you would do, if you would fight for him, or let him die? And you fought. That tells me something." "What?" "That maybe Thaddeus was not the man I thought he was, and maybe Owen was not the man I thought he was, either. Will you help me?" The marshal looked at the documents again. "On one condition." "What after this? After he is gone, you stay here, you run this property, you do not cause trouble." Lita extended her hand. "Deal." The marshal shook it. The hanging was scheduled for the next day. Public execution. The whole town would attend. Lita spent the night preparing. She went to the barn, found the box of rings, the ledger, the photographs. She carried them to the well, the old well, the condemned well. She dropped them in, one by one. The rings made no sound as they fell, swallowed by darkness. The ledger, the photographs, evidence of 12 deaths, all of it gone. Then she took a can of kerosene from the barn, poured it around the well, around the barn, or around the house, not lighting it, not yet, but ready. When the time came, the morning of the hanging was bright, cloudless, heat already building. The town gathered in the square, men, women, children. A scaffold had been erected overnight, rough wood, hastily built. Owen was brought from the jail in chains. He could barely walk. 2 deputies held him upright. His face was bruised, swollen, but his eyes were clear. He saw Lita in the crowd. She stood apart from the others, alone. Their eyes met. He nodded once. She nodded back. The marshal read the charges. "Owen Merrick, you have been found guilty of the murder of Thaddeus Carver. You are hereby sentenced to death by hanging. May God have mercy on your soul." Owen was led up the scaffold steps. The noose was placed around his neck. The crowd held its breath. Lita watched. She knew what the marshal had told her. The noose was rigged, padded. It would look real, but would not break Owen's neck. But what if something went wrong? What if he died anyway? The executioner asked if Owen had any last words. Owen looked out at the crowd. His voice, when he spoke, was stronger than it had been in days. "I killed Thaddeus Carver. I do not deny it. He was a man who hurt those weaker than himself. I have no regrets." Murmurs from the crowd. Owen continued, "But I want it known. Mrs. Carver is innocent. She tried to stop me. She is a good woman, a victim of circumstance. The town should protect her, not condemn her." He looked directly at Lita. "Live well." The trapdoor opened. Owen fell. The rope snapped taut. His body jerked once, then went still. The crowd gasped. Lita's vision blurred. She gripped the edge of a wagon to stay upright. The doctor approached, climbed the scaffold, checked Owen's pulse. "He is dead." The crowd began to disperse. Lita did not move, could not move. The marshal appeared at her elbow. "Come with me." He led her behind the jail, to where a wagon waited. In the back of the wagon, covered by canvas. Owen, alive, breathing. The rope around his neck was loose, padded underneath. No marks. His eyes opened when he heard her approach. "Mrs. Carver." His voice was ragged but real. "You are alive. For now." The marshal climbed into the driver's seat. "We need to move before anyone asks questions." Lita climbed into the back with Owen. The wagon pulled out, headed east, away from town. They rode for an hour, into empty prairie. No roads, no landmarks, just grass and sky. Finally, the marshal stopped. "This is as far as I go." Owen sat up, slow, painful, but he managed. The marshal handed him a bag, $200, a canteen. "Some food. There is a mining camp about 30 miles east. They do not ask questions. Go there." Owen took the bag. "Thank you. Do not thank me. Just disappear. I will." The marshal climbed down, helped Owen down. Owen stood on shaking legs. Lita climbed down too. She and Owen faced each other. The prairie stretched out around them. Endless. Where will you go, Colorado? Maybe California. Somewhere no one knows. Owen Merrick. Will I see you again? Owen looked at her for a long moment. No. Why not? Because Owen Merrick is dead. Buried in Potter's Field. And whoever I become next, he will not come back here. You saved my life. You saved mine first. When you lied to the marshal. We saved each other. Yes. Silence. The wind pushed through the grass. A hawk circled overhead. Owen reached out, touched her face, gentle. You deserve better than all this. Lita covered his hand with hers. So did you. He leaned forward, kissed her forehead. Live free, Lita Carver. He turned, started walking, east, into the emptiness. Lita watched until he was just a speck on the horizon. Then nothing. The marshal cleared his throat. We should go. They climbed back into the wagon, rode back to town in silence. When they reached the edge of Carver property, Lita got out. Marshal, yes, the documents. I will burn them tonight, all of them, and the ledger. Already done, the marshal nodded. And you, what will you do now? Lita looked at the house, the barn, the cupboard windows. I am going to burn it all. The house, everything. The house, the barn, the well, all of it. Why? Because it is cursed. Because 12 women died here. Because I will not live in their tomb. What will you build? Something new. The marshal tipped his hat. Good luck, Mrs. Carver. He drove away. Lita stood alone. She went to the barn, got the kerosene, poured it through the house. Every room, every floor, poured it in the barn, over the medical equipment, over the workspace on the 3rd floor, poured it around the well. Then she went back to the house, to the sitting room. She struck a match, watched the flame dance, thought of Owen, walking east, thought of Clara, and Margaret, and Susan, and all the others, thought of herself, who she had been, who she was now. She dropped the match. The fire caught, spread, consumed. She walked out as the flames climbed the walls, stood in the yard and watched the house burn, the barn burn, everything, turning to ash. By morning, nothing remained but blackened stone and twisted metal. The well had collapsed in on itself. The property was scorched earth. Lita stood in the ruins, and she began to plan. 6 months later. The property had been rebuilt. Not the same house, something smaller, simpler. 1 story, wide porch, large windows, no curtains, light everywhere, a sign above the door, Vereen House, lodging for women. Lita ran it alone at first, then word spread. Women came, women escaping bad marriages, bad situations, bad men, women with nowhere else to go. Lita asked no questions. She provided a room, a bed, a lock on the door. She provided work if they wanted it, cleaning, cooking, gardening. She provided safety. No men allowed on the property, not even the marshal. The women stayed as long as they needed. Some left after a week, some stayed for months. Lita treated them all the same, with respect, with dignity, with the understanding that came from someone who had survived. The town talked. Of course they did. But they also sent their daughters when trouble came. They also looked the other way when wanted women disappeared into Vereen House and emerged weeks later with new names and new directions. Lita became someone unexpected, not a victim, not a villain, a sanctuary. On a cold afternoon in February, a stagecoach arrived. Lita was in the garden, planting seeds for spring. She heard the coach, stood, wiped her hands on her apron. A woman climbed down from the coach, young, maybe 22, carrying a small bag. She looked around, uncertain, scared. She saw the sign, Vereen House. She approached slowly. Lita met her at the gate. The woman stopped, took in Lita's face, the house, the garden. Are you Mrs. Carver? I am. The woman hesitated. I need help. What kind of help? I was supposed to marry a man in Dodge City. A mail order arrangement. But when I arrived, he was not what he promised. He was. He hurt me. She touched her wrist, a bruise visible beneath her sleeve. I ran. I have nowhere to go. Lita opened the gate. What is your name? The woman hesitated. Rose. Is that your real name? The woman looked down. No. Lita smiled, small, understanding. Good. Real names are dangerous. You can stay. Relief flooded Rose's face. Thank you. Thank you so much. She walked through the gate. Lita closed it behind her. As Rose headed toward the house, Lita's eyes caught something on the post outside the gate. A wanted poster. New. Recently nailed. Wanted. Rose Calloway. Fraud. $200 reward. The sketch was rough, but the resemblance was there. Lita looked at the poster, looked at Rose's retreating back, looked at the poster again. She pulled it down, walked to the fire pit at the edge of the garden. The coals from last night's fire were still warm. She fed the poster to the embers, watched it catch, watched it burn, watched Rose Calloway's face turn to ash. Then she went inside. That night, Lita sat at her desk, the same desk from Thaddeus's study, the only piece of furniture she had kept. She had letters to write to women in other towns, women who ran similar houses, who formed a network, quiet, invisible, but real. They passed women along from town to town, state to state, until the wanted posters stopped following, until the women were safe. Lita dipped her pen in ink, began to write, but then she stopped, set the pen down, opened a drawer. Inside was a single photograph, Owen Merrick, taken years ago, before the scars, before the prison, before everything. A young man, clear-eyed, hopeful. She touched the photograph, wondered where he was now, if he was alive, if he ever thought of her. She would never know, and that was all right. Some debts could not be repaid. Some sacrifices could not be reciprocated. Some people saved you and then disappeared, and you had to live with that. You had to make it mean something. She put the photograph away, picked up her pen again, and wrote. Hours later, she finished, sealed the letters, took them to her window. Outside, the Kansas night was vast, stars scattered like salt across black cloth. She looked out at the land that had been Thaddeus's, the land that was hers now. She thought about the women who had died here, the women who lived here now, the women who would come. She thought about Lita Vereen, mail-order bride, widow, fugitive. She thought about Letitia Brennan, governess, murderess. She thought about all the names she had worn, all the lives she had lived. And she realized something. She was not running anymore. She had stopped. She had planted roots in this cursed ground, and she had made it holy. The law might still be looking for Letitia Brennan, but Letitia Brennan was ash. What remained was something new, something forged in fire, something unbreakable. She turned from the window, blew out the lamp, lay down in her bed, and for the first time in years she slept without fear, because she was not afraid of being found anymore. She had built something larger than herself, something that mattered, and if they came for her, if the law finally caught up, the house would remain, the network would continue, the women would keep coming, and they would keep being saved, not by her, but by each other, by the simple radical act of showing up, of offering shelter, of asking no questions, of burning the wanted posters and planting gardens in scorched earth. That was her legacy, not survival, sanctuary. In the morning, Rose found her in the kitchen, making coffee, making breakfast. Rose was nervous, uncertain. I wanted to thank you again for taking me in. Lita handed her a cup of coffee. You do not need to thank me, but I do. You saved my life. Lita looked at her, this young woman running from something just like she had been. I did not save you. You saved yourself. I just opened the door. Rose smiled, small, fragile. What happens now? Now you rest. You heal. And when you are ready, you decide where to go next. And if I do not know where to go, then you stay until you do. Rose's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this? Lita looked out the window. At the garden, at the land. Because someone once did it for me, in a way. And because no one should have to run alone. Rose nodded, wiped her eyes. What can I do to help? Lita handed her a basket. The chickens need feeding. Rose took the basket, headed outside. Lita watched her go. Then she turned back to the stove, to the coffee boiling, to the bread baking, to the simple work of the day. Lita stood at the stove, watching the coffee boil, listening to Rose outside with the chickens, and she thought about the question no one ever asked. Not what was she running from, But what was she running toward? For years she had not known the answer. Boston to Kansas, name to name, life to life. Always moving, always one step ahead of the past. But the past had caught up anyway. In a dark house with covered windows, in a well full of bones, in a man who saved her by dying for her. And somewhere in all that darkness she had stopped running. Not because she was safe, but because she had found something worth standing still for. This house, this work, these women who arrived with their secrets and their scars and their false names. She did not save them. She just opened the door and let them save themselves. The way Owen had opened a door for her. The way she had walked through it. Bloody, broken, but alive. The coffee boiled over. She pulled it off the heat. Rose came back inside, basket empty. What should I do now? Lita handed her a cup of coffee. Now you rest. Tomorrow we will talk about what comes next. Rose nodded, took the cup, sat at the table. Lita looked out the window, at the garden, at the land stretching away to the horizon. The past was buried here, in ash, in lies, in unmarked graves. But what grew from it was something new, something good, something that mattered. She turned back to Rose, and she smiled. Welcome home. End.